up, guys? It's your boy, the man, the myth, the legend, Pickdroppers, back at it again with a NFL post-game video. In this video, I will be going over last week's games, meaning week 4, and it was a very, very good week. The game in the background is just a random game that I made between the Redskins and the Rams. I am the Rams, and I wind up choking the game away. You'll guys see in the video. But the first game that I have on the list is Cleveland-Washington. Now, that was a really good game. Washington definitely played really sloppy, but when it came down to it, Cleveland just committed too many turnovers, and at the end of the game, Cleveland just got outplayed on offense. And Washington ended the fourth quarter outscoring Cleveland 14-0, and Cleveland needs to put some points up. And both run games were definitely strong, definitely a run-heavy game, but Cleveland was just not able to limit the turnovers, and they weren't able to win. The next game I have on this list is Cincinnati-Miami. This was the Thursday night game, and it was a very, very good game. Now, one thing I would like to say is Miami looked really good for the first quarter. Now, after the first quarter, they looked really, really bad. They got outscored by Cincinnati 12-0. That means Miami didn't score any points after the first quarter. That's really embarrassing. And that is the main reason why Miami lost the game. They weren't able to put points on the board. And football is a game of points. You can't put any points on the board. There's a 0% chance you'll win the game. There's a 0% chance you'll win the game. So that's definitely a factor for Miami. And Ryan Tannehill just hasn't been able to get it going in Miami for the last 5 years. And I just think Miami should get rid of him. I mean, he's doing nothing to help the franchise. And Cincinnati had a really good game defensively. And A.J. Green had a monstrous game. Definitely a great game by A.J. Green. And the Dolphins just got outplayed on so many different levels. And I wasn't really surprised. Now, the next game I have on this list is Jacksonville-Miami. Now, this was in London, and I actually watched pretty much all of this game. And main things I saw was that Andrew Luck just wasn't able to do anything on offense. Another thing I saw was Allen Robinson got targeted a lot. Like, a lot. He got targeted. It doesn't really show on the stats, but when I was watching the game, I noticed that he got targeted a lot. And Indianapolis's young cornerbacks just weren't able to stop him. And that's primarily what I saw throughout the game. I don't know if they have, some problems. I don't think Vontae Davis was even on him. I don't think Vontae Davis played. But Indianapolis definitely got outplayed. Andrew Luck definitely wasn't able to do anything on offense. And that's really going to hurt the Indianapolis Colts if he's not able to get anything going for the rest of the season. Now, the next game I have on this list is Atlanta, Carolina. Oh, my God. Having Julio Jones on my fantasy team, even though he actually didn't win me the game, was huge. Julio Jones got me 36 points. Carolina's defense is looking fake. And then Cam Newton got tackled on the 2-point conversion when he didn't even need to get touched. And so he's going into concussion protocol. And I don't even know if he'll play next week. And the Panthers are 1-3, and Atlanta is 3-1. I definitely would not have expected that coming from the first 4 games of the season from either teams. But I'm especially surprised with Carolina. And Matt Ryan went off throwing for over 500 yards, 503 yards, which is really good. And unlike last week against the New Orleans Saints, Atlanta mainly worried about their passing game. And they passed the ball a lot. And their rushing game didn't really need to help out, which definitely helped their backs get some rest after they had to rush the ball a lot versus New Orleans, after they were killing it against New Orleans. And it was just a very sloppy game by Carolina. Now, next game I have on this list was Chicago-Detroit. Now, I didn't really watch much of this game, but I do know that Detroit had a really bad rushing game this week. And Chicago just had a really good rushing game. And Brian Hoyer, again, had a pretty okay game. And that gets the job done. And Chicago was able to get the win. And I'm actually kind of surprised. I thought Detroit might have gotten the win on this game before it started. And Marvin Jones had a mediocre game, and he's really helped the team out in the previous 3 weeks. Now, the next game I have on this list is the Bills versus the Patriots. Now, I was really surprised by this game. Not that New England got shut out, but that they got shut out at home in Gillette Stadium. Gillette Stadium is arguably the hardest place to play in with the fans and the weather. It is easily one of the hardest places to play in. You could easily make an argument for it being the hardest place to play in. Definitely great fans out there in New England. And Jacoby Brissett just wasn't able to get anything done. And LeGarrette Blount just wasn't able to get anything done either. Only 54 yards. And he's really been helping the team out. And Tyrod Taylor had an okay game, and he was able to slide by with the win. Definitely very good game on Buffalo's defense, obviously, giving up 0 points. That's definitely always good. And the next game I have on this list is Seattle versus the Jets. Now, the Jets' defense played okay, but it was mainly the offense for the Jets that had the problem. I mean, Seattle's defense is really, really good. I don't think they've let up 20 points at all this whole season. And Seattle, for Russell Wilson, he had a great game, and I was really surprised because last week he got hit really hardly, and I didn't even know if he was going to play. And well did he play. Oh my God. He had a great, great game. Passed for over 300 yards, but he also had 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. That was the big difference between the two quarterbacks. Russell Wilson had 0 interceptions thrown. Ryan Fitzpatrick had 3 interceptions thrown. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is leading the league with 10 interceptions. And it's just crazy how good Seattle's defense is. And then Matt Forte, they held Matt Forte, who's a great running back, to only 27 yards. Let that sink in. 27 yards for a great tight end. I even think he might be a Hall of Fame tight end. He is great. And Brandon Marshall did have a really good game. And he did really good against Richard Sherman. But Richard Sherman was able to get 2 picks. But Brandon Marshall, I was watching the game. Brandon Marshall had a really, really good game. And I was really surprised. I thought that Richard Sherman would play really well against him, especially since Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback. Now, the next game I have on this list is Oakland-Baltimore. Now, Oakland got away with a lucky win, and I thought Baltimore outplayed them. But as long as you get the win, it doesn't really matter how well you play. And luckily, Oakland came out with the last laugh. Derek Carr just had a really bad game, under 200 yards. And Joe Flacco almost got 300 yards. Great game by him. I don't usually like saying compliments about Joe Flacco, but he definitely had a really good game. And I was definitely surprised by how well he played. Steve Smith also had a really, really good game, and so did Terrence West. Everybody on the Ravens was clicking, but when it came down to it, Oakland's defense stopped them, and they didn't let them get the last points. Even though all the stats look like Baltimore won, they didn't, and the final score is all that matters. And Oakland's defense just outplayed Baltimore. Now, the next game I have on this list is Houston versus Tennessee. Now, this game I also didn't watch much of, but I do know that the run games were pretty good on both sides of the field, and the passing games were not too good, but got the job done. And the both passers did throw for a combined 3 interceptions, which isn't too good, but the defenses played pretty good. And Jadeveon Clowney definitely showed his potential this week. He got a sack and a couple of tackles, and he was all over the field on runs and on passes, and definitely looked really good. And the ageless Arakpel definitely looked really good. But when it came down to it, Houston was able to keep Tennessee out of the end zone in the 4th quarter. Tennessee just wasn't able to score. And Marcus Mariota, just like he always does, is not able to produce in the clutch. Now, the next game I have on this list is Denver versus Tampa Bay. Now, there's not much to say. Everybody projected that this was going to happen, that Denver was going to crush Tampa Bay, and they did. Denver's defense stepped it up. Paxton Lynch and C.J. Anderson didn't have a really good game at all. definitely if you look at the stats, they had a horrible game. But so did Jameis Winston and Sims. They had a horrible game. Sims was not able to get anything going in the rushing department. Only able to get 29 yards, and that's definitely not going to do it, especially when you have Jameis Winston. And Jameis Winston was only able to throw for 179 yards. That is definitely not going to win you the game. And Denver's defense just played great, and there's really nothing you could do, especially if you have Jameis Winston. There's just nothing you could do. And they just got outplayed, especially on defense. Only able to score 7 points in the fourth quarter. That's definitely not going to be able to give you the win. And props to Denver's defense going 4-0 with Paxton Lynch. Now, the next game I have on this list is Arizona versus the LA Rams. Now, I was definitely surprised by the outcome of this game because I did not think that the Rams were going to be able to win this game. The Rams just played great defense, and Arizona just didn't play good defense. I mean, they just weren't able, or good offense. They just weren't able to get anything going. Even with David Johnson getting 83 yards, the passing game wasn't able to do anything. And John Brown got half of Carson Palmer's yards, and it just wasn't enough. And even though Arizona was home, Los Angeles was able to outplay Arizona with Todd Gurley only able to get 33 yards. Now, that's definitely something to say. And I'm very happy that Arizona lost because I want to see, I don't want them to do too well because I want the Steelers to be looked at as the best team, and I don't want Arizona to. So I just like to see when Arizona lose. I also like to see upsets. Upsets I definitely am fond of. And the next game I have on this list is New Orleans, San Diego. Do you guys want to talk about no defense? Well, then look at this game. It turned out to be 35-34. Drew Brees did get the best of his counterpart in Phillip Rivers. And Phillip Rivers, when it came down to the very end, wasn't able to score the last touchdown. Melvin Gordon had a pretty bad game, but Phillip Rivers had a really good game. And Drew Brees actually didn't throw for pretty much any yards. 207 yards. That's definitely a very bad game in Drew Brees' eyes, in yards-wise. And the defense for New Orleans was definitely able to put some stops in the fourth quarter, which I was definitely surprised by. Now, the next game I have on this list is Dallas, San Francisco. Now, this was a very fun game to watch. Dallas definitely played way better, especially in the quarterbacking realm. And Dak Prescott just had another amazing game. And I'm not really surprised at this point. I mean, he's had great game after great game after great game. He hasn't even thrown an interception yet. Ezekiel Elliott had an amazing game. And San Francisco's defense just wasn't able to do anything. And Blaine Gabbert was only able to throw for less than 200 yards. And that's just not going to do it. And, I mean, I'm not surprised with Dak. He's just a great player. And I think the Rams really need to put in Jared Goff and see how all the rookies do. And that's just going to be really fun when that happens. Now, the next game I have on this list is Pittsburgh versus the Chiefs. I'm not really going to go much into this because I will be going into this later in the week when I do my franchise mode. And Pittsburgh just had an amazing game. I mean, there's nothing else you could say. After their debacle last week, their team came back to it and was able to put up over 40 points. And Antonio Brown had an amazing game. Le'Veon Bell also had a great game. And so did Big Ben, throwing for 5 touchdowns in the first 3 quarters. And he probably could have thrown more if they kept him in the game and if the game was much closer. But because the game was so far apart, they decided to just take him out and not have him pass the ball as much and just rush the ball with Le'Veon. Give him some more carries, give him some more reps, and yeah. Now the next game and the last game I have on this list is the Giants versus the Vikings. And the Vikings just outplayed the Giants. The Vikings outplayed their opponents for the fourth game in a row. The third game in a row, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and the Vikings just played a great game. And I'm definitely looking forward to what the Vikings are able to do the rest of the year. Because they definitely have a great team. And the Giants just weren't able to get anything done going in the passing game. Sterling Shepard, Victor Cruz, and OBJ were just not able to do anything on offense, and they weren't able to get the win for their team, especially when it mattered. And all the players on the Vikings defense were able to get into Odell's head, and Odell just wasn't able to think straight. And that was the main reason why they lost the game. Now, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and write a comment down below on what you would like to see next. It's your boy Pickdroppers, and I'm out. Peace!